One of the things that I wanted to talk about today was about Mi'kmaq women, and particularly issues around racism, resistance, resilience, and revitalization. So one of the things that I wanted to show, there we go. In the past, our history as Mi'kmaq women has been really hard to come by. And there's a really awesome book called Countering Colonialization. And in that book, Carol Devins explores the writings of the missionaries in the late 1600s, early 1700s, and their reaction and their observations about Aboriginal women. And one of their reactions to Aboriginal women was that we were really not that important. We were invisible. And some of the things that we did as Mi'kmaq women, we didn't talk to with men. So when the anthropologists or the priests came in and wanted to talk to us about what we were doing, it was not to be talked about. So when I talk about the past to the present, we come to the point today where there's 1,800 missing or murdered Aboriginal women who are invisible. People don't think about it, we don't know about it. It's just this endless stream of women who are Aboriginal, who through social inequality, racism, sexism, discrimination, have lost their lives. So in some ways, from the past to the present, in some ways we're still invisible. So part of my journey, and I always like to talk about this in terms of a story, Thomas King says stories are all we are. First thing I wanted to say, stories are all we are. When we talk about the present, I grew up poor. My father was Irish. I didn't become a real Indian in Canada under the law until September 19th, 1980 at 3:20 p.m. And the reason I can make that precision determination is because I got married to a man from Chapel Island. My mother wasn't happy, but let's not talk about that. So when we look at the Indian Act and colonialism, the Indian Act determines, even today, who is an Indian under the Indian Act, who has status, who has rights to treaty, who has rights to benefits, who has the right to live on the reserve. And when we go back to the past, this is kind of a contradiction. Remember I said earlier that we were invisible. But I think that we had a secret power that the federal government was very aware of, and that secret power was targeted. And it was targeted through the Indian Act, because the Indian Act, during the time of the Victorian age, when women had no power at all, the Indian Act focused on Aboriginal women. If you married off the reserve, you were no longer an Indian. If you were married to someone else from another community, you became a member of that community. And that really undercut our communities, because the women had power through politics, through raising our children, passing on culture and language. And when you take that part away, it really impacts the community. Then we go to the residential school era, and our children were taken away. And all the time, the Indian Act is getting longer and longer and longer. It rules our lives from birth to beyond the grave. Who was considered an Indian, who was not considered an Indian. I was one of the ones that was not considered a status Indian until September 19th, 1980 at 3:20 p.m. So when I talk about that kind of racism, one of the things I looked up in preparation for this talk, there was a quote by Toni Morrison that said, "Racism is a distraction for us. Can we educate people about racism?" And I thought about that comment, and I thought, we as Mi'kmaq women, or me, I should talk about myself, has been very hurt by racism and sexism. And sometimes it's hard to figure out which is which. Am I being discriminated against because I'm a woman? Am I being discriminated against because I'm a lawyer? Whoops, yes. Or a Mi'kmaq person? Or, now that I'm getting up there in age, is it my age? And all of these things are intertwined together. We still live in a society today where we face increased violence, we face poverty, we face that inequity. I wanted to talk about racism and how much it hurts. And when Toni Morrison said it was a distraction, like I said, I was thinking about that. And I thought, how is that a distraction? It actually happens. People in power put us down because of our race and culture and our language. And this has been going on for millennia. Well, since we first discovered the Europeans, I should say. That has been going on. But when we talk about racism being a distraction, the racism is a distraction to me. Because when we look at all of the different things about our history and who we are, the stereotypes about us as Mi'kmaq women, that hurts me. I have to learn to find my own voice within that mishmash of stereotypes. I wanted to say something about my mom. My mom went to residential school. My mom passed away 3.5 years ago. She taught us, my sister and I, what it meant to be within ourselves as Mi'kmaq women. She always said, get an education. So I go to law school. My mother would say, excuse me, don't let those, who put you down, don't do it. Don't listen to it. And it was really hard to do that. I'm perfectly able to protect myself in many ways, but sometimes with racism, I'm unable to do that. And that's where other people come in. So my mother went to residential school, and she still taught us what it meant to be Mi'kmaq. And what does it mean to be a Mi'kmaq? It's about spirituality, it's about culture, it's about values. It's about who we are, our connection to the land. There was a recent case in the Supreme Court of Canada that just came down about Aboriginal title. People think that this is Crown land. This is Mi'kma'ki. This is Unama'ki. This is our territory. We get our strength and wisdom from the land. That's what we do. And sometimes people don't understand that. So can we work on garnering an understanding of each other in terms of the humanity between us? And that's where part of the stereotypical reactions came in about us, is that we were not human. But we are human. We have to get beyond the stereotypes. I have to get beyond the stereotypes. So when I talk about this racism, I talk about resistance, that we did not totally fall down. We resisted. We wanted an education. We ended up with the residential schools. We wanted land. We ended up with the reserves. We wanted to keep our language and culture alive. When it was outlawed under the Indian Act, we kept it alive, underground. So that resistance kept us here. And I didn't clue into this until I was 32. or something. Sorry, when I was in law school, when people looked at us like, you shouldn't be here. You're not smart enough to be here. My American background would come in and go, what do you mean? You can't be saying that about me. And then my Mi'kmaq self would go, maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. So I started looking back at the history of my family, starting with my mom, who survived residential school, who survived and thrived in bringing those values to my sister and I, to her nieces and nephews, to our extended family. That's part of the resistance that we've had to deal with, that we've had to survive, using resistance to survive. And the next R I'd like to talk about is resilience, because my mom was the epitome of resilience. And when we talk about resilience, it's how do we maintain ourselves in our own soul. And again, this comes back to this idea of why is racism a distraction? Because my resilience and my family tells me we can't believe those things that they say about us. It hurts. It's painful. So how do we become resilient? Some of the things that I have done, and I'm not successful all the time, believe me, I am not successful all the time. It's meditation. It's a return to our traditional ways, along with our Catholic ways. It's feeling the blood of the women ancestors in my veins of survival and thriving. It's finding our voice and being strong enough and brave enough to get up and talk about our experience. So now we're getting into the concept of revitalization. And I think this revitalization, I see it happening with our youth in particular. I just figured out like 10 years ago, I'm not really in the category of a youth anymore. Like, oh my, I'm not a youth. Getting old. But our youth are the ones that are really, really stepping up to the plate. And that revitalization means that as Mi'kmaq women, we take our place in our society, in our community, in our family, our strength and power with dignity of who we are as Mi'kmaq women. And oh, that's so hard sometimes, because the negative stuff will impose itself in my brain. And it will say, you are not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, well, I'm always too fat, but you're too fat, you're too tall, you're too something. We don't want that. We're coming into a time where the balance has to be achieved again, where women have to step up and take their role as Mi'kmaq women, politically, spiritually, culturally. Whether people go on to do their dreams, they become lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, and give back to our community. I am very interested in the idea of voice, and the concept of being allowed to speak one's truth. And that's what I was taught by my friend Trish Montour. We have to find our strength within ourselves. I think sometimes I had an experience at work, and I just want to share this with you. I was talking about my mom and her role in the Chapel Island, in the community, as an elder, as a prayer leader, and two people thought it was funny